Welcome to the Lounge with Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and also what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Erin Carey, who is founder and director of Rome Generation PR. So welcome to the Lounge, Erin, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know this is really cool, and I'm excited for you to join us today because, we do a lot of topics, around like marketing and sales and all that stuff, but we don't really do a lot where we talk about travel advisors just really getting their name and business out there because it's so important. They have this amazing, unique benefit that very few have. They know the travel industry, so they have something that they can market themselves with, and I think a majority of them completely forget that. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you today. And before we dive into that entire conversation, can you just share your background with us and just, how you created and why you created Rome Generation PR?
Yeah, absolutely. I love PR. I think it's super exciting. It's super unique. And I kind of fell into it organically. So it all started about 5 years ago now, when I was living on a boat with my family and sailing around the world. We were not sailors. We just decided one day to sell our house and quit our jobs and take the kids out of school and buy a boat on the other side of the world and sail off into the sunset. So that was a crazy decision and not something we'd ever done before, ever even thought about doing before. But anyway, that was the catalyst to me starting my company. So while I was living on the boat, within the first 12 months, I was meeting amazing people, inspiring businesses, hearing incredible stories. And I knew that I wanted to do something with all of the stories and the people that I was meeting, but I wasn't sure quite what. So I started off doing some freelance writing. I was not a writer and had never considered doing that. Something crazy like throwing caution to the wind and buying a boat on the other side of the world and sailing away. You start to believe in yourself and believe that you can do absolutely anything. So, I actually was quite successful at writing and sharing the stories of the people that I was meeting. And people started asking me, can you do this for us? Can you continue to write stories about us and share them with magazines and newspapers? And so it kind of started from there. I was very lucky in that the first client that I ever got was one of the world's largest sailing YouTube channels. So SV Delos, they're called, and we just happened to meet them on a Caribbean island and clicked and became friends and interviewed them numerous times and started like sharing their story because I was so compelled to do so because it was so inspiring. And it was really a realization that I'm really good at this. I'm tenacious, I'm determined, I'm savvy. I don't take no for an answer. My background working in government comms, I've interviewed thousands of people. I know how to get to the heart of the story. I know how to elicit information and kind of put that all together and share that in report form, as it were, back when I worked for the government. Now, it's in story form or pitch form. So yeah, it was almost like I stumbled upon this perfect career for me and my personality. It's definitely not for everybody. My husband is just like blown away that I would want to do this. He's an introvert. He's not into communications or speaking to people or reaching out, cold calling people. That makes him super anxious and nervous, as would a lot of people. But yeah, it was just something that was really a great fit for me. So once I met that first amazing client, that just led to me going, you know what, this is what I want to do. So I invested a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort into learning everything I could about the world of PR and how to promote clients just like them. So that led me to kind of expanding, building upon the travel space, which has always been my passion. I studied travel after school. I originally wanted to work as a travel advisor or a travel consultant, but life kind of took me on a different path. So it's interesting how I've kind of done a full circle and come back to travel. And then, yeah, built upon that by expanding into lifestyle and adventure as well. So yeah, it's really come about from a love of travel and a love of wanting to just promote other people and sharing their inspiring stories. I think because it was an inspiring story that caused us to move onto the boat. It was a documentary about Laura Decker, the youngest girl to ever sail around the world, that made us make that huge life-changing decision. And so I realized the power of not only travel, but the power of storytelling and how it can change people's lives. And I want to play a small part in sharing those stories and having that kind of domino effect on other people and letting them experience the life-changing effects of travel as well.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. We could do a whole podcast episode just on your sailing journey. That is incredible. That's really cool. And like also too, because you mentioned a little bit how you're working with like a sailing channel and stuff in a group there. But for those unfamiliar, not really well acquainted with PR, press relations and media, can you share like what do you do with them and who are like examples of who you currently work with at Rome Generation?
Yeah, sure. So we cover travel, adventure, and lifestyle, which is quite a huge umbrella. But, we obviously aren't your typical PR agency. I started my company on a yacht. We are the only that I'm aware of remote PR agency. We are no longer on a yacht. As you can see from this video, only a few months ago, we've wound up our yacht adventure. That's 5 years done and dusted now. We have children, teenagers who are wanted to go back to school. So we are now land-based in Adelaide, Australia. However, we still work with clients from around the world. We're location independent. I want to keep my company that way because I want to be able to travel to Bali and work from there, or travel to, interstate, or go on a holiday with my family, but continue to keep my business going. That's the whole reason I started my company, and it's really important to our values. So while we do work with clients from around the world, we primarily have contacts in the US. So if you're a travel, adventure, or lifestyle company who want to get your name out there and to reach the US market, then we can definitely help with that. What kind of clients do we work with? We work with naturally attracted to the sailing and yachting and boating kind of sphere. So charter yacht clients, boat builders, and anything to do with boating and lifestyle in that regard. I'm an adventurer. Obviously, I have adventure in my veins. I wanted to live on a boat. We sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. We did all of the things with our 3 kids for 5 years. So naturally attracted to adventure companies as well, and companies that are doing things a little bit different. Maybe you're a remote company. Maybe you have created tech that is allowing people to work remotely. Maybe you've just got like a super cool retreat, like we've got a surf retreat in Nicaragua. We've had charter yacht clients. I've got a sailing school. We work with YouTubers who are travel experts, coaches who are travel experts. So really, if you loosely come under that umbrella and you feel aligned with our goals and missions, then yeah, you'd be a great fit for Rome Generation.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And so also like looking back for just travel advisors, just your normal, just whether they're in an agency, independent, just starting, or a veteran, what are some of the benefits of just press relations and media? And then also just why should a travel advisor invest time and strategy into that? What is it that makes that so unique and should be part of a strategy, basically?
Yeah, look, PR it's not well understood, and I love to share all the benefits of PR because there are a ton, and obviously I believe in it, hence why I got into this field. But look, there are a lot of reasons why you should invest in PR. However, if you can't afford to invest money, invest your time. And it is time consuming, which is why most people usually decide to work with a publicist. But certainly if you can't afford that, there are definitely a few things that you can do. And I think we'll cover those in, some future questions. But why should you do PR for your brand? Well, there's several reasons. So you can boost your reputation by doing PR. You can raise your credibility. You can raise the brand awareness of your company. You can build the trust among your audience. You can get your name out there. You can generate a buzz. You can change the narrative of what your company is all about. You can be in control of the message that gets put out into the public. You can, by featuring in the media, then include those as seen logos on the front page of your website. And immediately when people come to your website, if they're deciding between 2 or 3 other travel advisors, if they see that you've been featured in Forbes Women or CNBC or Travel and Leisure, that just, right away instills trust in that consumer, and will hopefully make them choose you over another company. So like I said, there are so many benefits. The main ones are that you're going to raise your credibility. So we're going to really control the narrative of what we're putting out into the world. And so the consumers have more trust in you. You're raising your reputation. You're raising your brand profile, brand awareness. You're going to have more people following you. And then obviously a positive side effect, although it's not something that PR can be held accountable for, but is that you're going to raise revenue. It's just a natural side effect of getting your name out there, raising, all of those things that I've mentioned, is that you're going to get more clients, which will then lead to more revenue. So yeah, lots of benefits to PR for sure.
Yes, so many. I bet there's so many people listening where they're like, this is interesting, but I bet I wouldn't do it. And now they're like light bulbs going off, like, oh, good point. Like, especially if someone comes on your website and they see the like as seen on, brilliant. I love that. So like, let's say, okay, those light bulbs are going off for people. They have to be. And so let's say that an advisor wants to start putting themselves out there, and you already mentioned, it does take time. So you have to know it's going to take a little time to invest, but like, what do they do? Where do they start?
Yeah, so there are a few things that you can do, but let's just start right from the beginning. If you're not going to invest in a PR agency to do all this for you, these are the things that you can do for yourself. So start really taking a deep dive into your own brand and your company. You've probably already done this. I would assume if you're running a successful business, you've already done this, but just revisit it and ask yourself questions like, what is your brand voice? What fuels your fire? What lights you up? What message do you want to put out into the world? Who are you trying to reach? Who is your target audience? Where are they hanging out? What do they listen to? What do they read? What magazines do they go to and reach for? We need to really have that really good understanding of your company so that we can start sharing that with the world. Once you have that down pat and you have your audience and you know who you're trying to reach out to, do some competitor research. Again, I'm sure you've already done this, but just look at it, do it again with some fresh set of eyes coming at it from a PR perspective. Take a look at what your competitors are doing. Have they been featured in any magazines or publications? Do they have any as seen logos on their website? Do they have a media page? Have they got a contact to a publicist on their page? So really just start to understand what your competitors are doing in the same space as you, not because you want to copy them, but because you just want to make sure that you're keeping up with what they're doing so that you're not left behind. So once you've done that, start to pay attention to the kinds of articles that your competitors have been featured in. So for example, if we use this surf retreat, who's one of our clients at the moment, at the beginning of the contract, we do what's called a press plan and strategy, where we do all of what we've just said, learn all about them, learn all about their audience, learn all about their competitors. and then take note of, okay, what kind of articles are out there on the web? If you do a Google search and then you click on the news tab, it'll show you all the articles that'll be, you know, like Travel and Leisure, Forbes, CNBC, all of the articles that have been in the media. That's the tab that we use all the time, and that's really valuable. So pay attention to the kinds of publications that these articles are in, and then go one step further and take note of the journalist who has written these articles, because they're the people that you're going to reach out to. So it takes a lot of research. Don't just get on the computer and think, I'm just going to fire off a quick email to a journalist and then I'm going to get featured in these magazines. It takes a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of competitor analysis. And then once you have a really great idea of that, that's when we can start getting into reaching out to these journalists and offering them, you know, a story angle. But I think we'll come to that in a minute.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And some of them that I thought of just when you were saying some of those, that again, like a lot of times I think people just immediately go to like, oh, my local news or things, which those are really good ones. But it's also like just like travel publications. I see all the time that there's always an article and they're always looking for like quotes and stuff and all that and just getting in the right. So yeah, there's many different ways. So I think that's a good idea. Just start, you know, writing down, researching where can you go, where have other people been. That's really cool. And on that too, like, so once they do figure out, you know, here's some places and you know, where they could be featured or be on, now what does that next step look like? Like, what does the pitch look like that they should be sending or doing?
Yeah. So, and you mentioned a good point there. It's not always a feature article about you. I mean, that would be the dream and the end goal, but even being mentioned as a quote or even being mentioned as a source with a quote is still a great result, because they'll include a link to your site. So just by getting links out there on the web, it's going to improve your SEO, improve excuse me, brand awareness, improve your Google ranking. It'll hopefully bring you up to, you know, first position eventually. Your domain authority will increase. So that's like another huge benefit of PR. So we've done all our research. We know the publications we want to reach out to and the names of the journalists. The next step is to construct that pitch and to send the email off. Now, we do this via email. We have a database that allows us to have access to all of the email addresses of all the journalists and editors essentially around the world. Unfortunately, you're not going to have that, but there are little ways that you can do your research. So start off with Google, go to LinkedIn. There is a tool called Signal Hire. So Signal Hire, one word, which allows you to put in somebody's LinkedIn details and then it will dig and find their email address. So that's a little tool that we use if we can't find their email address any other way. Look at the masthead on magazines to check, you know, who the editor is. Try and look at their LinkedIn to make sure they're still working for that publication. Again, more research, more time. But once you've done that, you've finally got their email address, we can write them the pitch. Now, the pitch isn't just, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. You should like totally promote my company because it's super cool. We have to remember that journalists aren't promoting you or sharing your story as a favor for you or of any benefit for you. They're doing that because they believe that their audience is going to be interested in your story. So you've got to tell them why your story is interesting and why now. Why should they share your story and why is now the right time? So we don't pay journalists to share your story. We don't pay publications. Everything that we do is earned media. So essentially we're compelling somebody to share your story. So if you don't have us to do that for you, then you have to compel them to share your story on your own. So a pitch is typically like a 2 to 3 paragraph email. Start off with their name. I know that sounds super basic, but there's no point writing good morning, hi there. They'll just delete your email straight away. It has to be personalized and it has to be addressed to them. So don't spell their name wrong, super basic things, but yeah, have that. Then pleasantries, hope you're well. introduce yourself. Hi, my name is blah, blah, and I'm the founder of such and such company. I saw your recent article on surf retreats in Nicaragua, and I would love to share my company with you. I'm the founder, I think I've mentioned the other founder. Rise Up Surf Retreats is a retreat for, and just do a really quick one sentence, okay? This whole email has to be short, sharp, targeted, and succinct. We do not want you to rattle on too much. And then put your story idea, like don't bury the lead. Put your story idea up there in the first paragraph. We teach local women in the villages how to swim. You know, death among locals due to drowning is you know, and add in some stats if you have them. I've just made this up off the top of my head. But add in a stat and say why what you're doing is important and how you're helping the community and why it's of interest right now. In the next paragraph, add a little bit more information. Then you can add some dot points. I love dot points. A lot of journalists love some dot points. Topics that I can speak about include, and then add a few topics about what you could cover. It can bolster the topic that you suggested, or they could be some alternative topics. It's just offering them some different angles that can make your story more well-rounded, or could be a different story altogether if your initial idea isn't quite on the mark. Finish off with a call to action and then sign off and send that. Now, there are other little tips and tricks we do, like sending it on the right day, sending it at the right time of day. So, you know, obviously don't send it at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, although, you know, sometimes the random times do work, but generally we send it in business hours, usually in the morning, and usually not necessarily Friday or Monday. Again, those days do work for some journalists, so mix it up. But yeah, there's lots of little things that we do. But the main ones are make it personalized, do your research, know about them, know about past articles they've written, try and like look on their Twitter, look on their LinkedIn, look on their Instagram. If you notice that they've got like the same breed of dog as you, maybe make a comment about their little dog, and I've got a dog as well. It's all about building relationships and getting them to notice you, to realize that you're a real human behind a screen. And remember, they're getting hundreds of pictures from people just like you who all have interesting stories they believe to share. So why should they respond to you? Why should they feature you in the publication? Now, it's important to know that you're not going to get a response right away. You might not get a response at all. That's highly likely. But don't lose hope. You might need to send out, in all honesty, 50 to 100 emails to 50 to 100 different people to get 1 or 2 or 3 responses. That's the kind of numbers that we're doing. Obviously, we have the database, which makes it easier for us to do that. But all of the pictures that we send out are personalized and targeted. So we never do mail merge. We don't do the spray and pray. We're just quite fast at doing research because that's just what we do every day. We know all of the tips and tricks. We're media savvy. We know who to reach out to. But it's not to say that we still don't work on each client for around 20 to 30 hours a month. So you're going to have to dedicate a lot of time. You're going to have to be thick-skinned. Know that it's not personal. It took a while for me to understand that if they don't respond, or if they kind of respond in a way that you think is, you know, could be taken to be a little bit rude or a bit snappy, they're getting hundreds of emails every day. And it's almost like we always count our blessings to get a response at all. Even if it's a no, at least they haven't blocked your email, they haven't deleted your email, and you're on their mind. So try again. Don't try again next week. Leave it a few weeks, leave it a month, come up with a different story angle. Don't send the same thing again. Trawl the media, be on, you know, on top of all of the trends in your niche, and understand the kind of stories that they're sharing. Come up with a different story angle and kind of rinse and repeat. don't send it to the exact same people, send it to a few of the same people, but also look for new people. And that's just what we do over and over again. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that a lot of the results come from the follow-up. So it's not enough to send us one email. You've then got to send a second follow-up within 7 days. Generally, 4 to 7 days later, we send a follow-up email, which basically says, hi, I'm just circling back, wanted to gauge your thoughts on the story idea that I sent through recently, and then provide a little bit more information. Now, we're talking about one paragraph, but something that's going to make them go, oh, that's actually really interesting. Maybe I'll go back and read their first email. Again, you may not get a response at this stage. So within another 7 days, send a third follow-up email. Now, my third follow-up emails are generally just saying, hey, just wanted to reach out one last time, just in case my email was buried in your inbox. If there's anything that you'd like to know further about Rise Up Surf Retreats, please let me know. We'd be only too happy to provide you with more information, and then kind of leave it at that. Do not keep following up after that. They will definitely block you, but it's acceptable to send 3 emails in total. Don't be surprised if you get most of your responses on the third email. So yeah, it's not as simple as just sending off one email and getting featured in Condé Nast Traveler. We put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to get our clients the results that we do. It's called earned media for a reason, because by the time they're finally on those glossy magazine pages, we've really earned it. And it shows. The clients are really appreciative by the time we finally get there. And it could be 6 months from like the first email until something's published, or even longer, but don't give up.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. Well, and the other thing too is what about it? Because okay, so we talked about like storytelling, like finding those angles, but is there ever, what do you think about like if someone specializes in like cruising, like in the Caribbean, so that way if that reporter ever has, or some breaking news or news trends or news comes out, and they like, oh, I know a person who can help with that, or are those not very effective? So basically, like, do you ever see where it's just like blanket emails out there like, here's what I can talk about if you ever need that? Like, are those helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a strategy. So when we first get a new client on board, we send out a new client alert to all of the journalists that are in that space that would typically write about that kind of story. And we would just list out, these are the kind of things that our client can speak about. They're experts in this and this topic. So if you're an expert in something, and remember, a lot of my clients go, oh, but we're not really experts. I'm like, you are definitely experts. You're a company in this stuff. I know that it feels uncomfortable to admit that you're an expert in something, but you just have to know more than your readers, which you are 100% going to know. So you're an expert. Promote yourself as such, and reach out and just say, hey, I've got this company. I'm an expert in this and this topic, and would love to help out if you ever need a source. That's certainly one way that you can go about it. Another thing I haven't mentioned is that you can subscribe to a few different sites. One is Haro, Haro, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. Another is Source Bottle, and another is Quoted. Now, there's a subscription fee for all of these, which you get if you sign up to a publicist. We monitor all of those for you. It's almost like a job within itself, because several times a day you're going to get emails and you've got to trawl through all of these media call outs. So these are journalists saying, looking for somebody who's an expert on hotels in Los Angeles, looking for someone who can speak about top travel items to take on a plane. Completely random, different things every single day. If you trawl those and monitor it and then respond to those media call outs, there's no guarantees, and you might put a half hour, an hour into something that you get absolutely no reply for, but it's like a numbers game. So the more that you respond to, eventually you'll crack code. Again, it's, you have to be really succinct and targeted. Make sure that you only bother responding if you really do fit what they're asking for. Don't waste your time. They're looking for exactly that. So don't write back and say, oh, I'm not an expert on Los Angeles, but I do know like a lot of hotels in, this surrounding area. That's not what they're asking for. You'd just be wasting your time. But certainly that is something that businesses can do by subscribing to those sites that I mentioned and then responding. Then they can hopefully get some results that way. And sometimes they're anonymous and you're not sure who you're actually responding to, but we've been lucky to get some really top tier press out of these media call outs. And that's actually a service that we offer. So if clients just want us to monitor the media for them and keep them top of mind on our roster, quite regularly we get journalists reaching out to us saying, hey Erin, I know you've got some super cool clients. Do you have anybody that lives on a boat, or do you have anybody that owns like a business in Central America, or do you know? So they're always looking for different and unique things. Just this month we got one of our clients in National Geographic, not because I pitched out to them, but because I had pitched out to them so many times in the past. They know what kind of clients we work with, so now they reach out to us. So yeah, Wall Street Journal, Condé Nast Traveler, like I said, National Geographic, Lonely Planet. We have the contacts with all of those people, but it's taken us a long time to build those contacts and relationships, which is what you're paying for when you work with a journalist, with a publicist. You're not going to have that. So remember that what you're doing is going to take a lot of time and effort, but if you keep persisting, you will get there eventually.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I remember Haro, the Help a Reporter Out, so HARO.com. I remember that's been around for a while, and that's really cool too because and so you must have to subscribe to those ones, but they will. Can't you like choose what you want your topic, and you'll get email notifications like once or a couple times a day when things come out?
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. So I've like subscribed to lifestyle and travel, but if you're into tech or real estate or whatever, say with Source Bottle, you can put your preferences and then they send you fewer, but you still do get quite a number every day, and quite a lot aren't relevant. But sometimes you'll just get this gem like, how much does it cost to live on a boat? And I'm like, oh my God, I've got like the perfect client for that. And yeah, you just know sometimes that, yes, they're going to write back because why would you not? We've just got the perfect person for you to speak with. And then other times it's a bit more of a longer shot, but yeah, we definitely have quite a lot of success through there. And there's no reason why you couldn't do that yourself once you do your research and make sure that what you're sending them is you know, interesting to what they're asking for.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's just so cool that you could do it on your own. I mean, it is a lot, investing time in it. But one thing that I was thinking of that we didn't talk about this before, but one thing that I thought of, like if you are a travel advisor reaching out and you're saying, I really know my stuff, and even if it's not necessarily article or it's not written, but it's more media on air, then do you ever recommend remind yourself that make sure that you are showing your face or recording or doing video content on your social media because then they can see you in real life interacting? Or is that important? Because that's just a random thought that I had that, if someone does get interested and they're like, they need proof that this person can speak well and talk about the stuff they want.
Yeah, it certainly is one of the tactics that we use. So the first place a journalist is going to go is to your website and to your social media. So make sure that both of those places are like really on point. Don't have a dated website. Don't not have contributed to your socials for like a year. That's just going to be a reason. They're looking for reasons not to feature you, essentially. So don't give them any. Make them super impressed with you. Certainly, if you've spoken on a podcast before and you're pitching a podcast, maybe attach a little clip of you speaking. If you're pitching a magazine like Condé Nast Traveler, where they really want beautiful photos and you've got photos that you think would be perfect for the article, put a link to your Dropbox folder full of your photos, just so you're giving them reasons to look through everything that you've sent over and to be like, by the time they reach out to you, they want to speak to you. Yeah, if you've been interviewed as an expert before, maybe put a link to the article that you were featured in. If you've been successful in local media, but you're struggling to reach, the top tier press, USA Today or Forbes, show them how you've been featured in local media, and that you are kind of a big deal in your local area, and that the rest of the world should know about you. So yeah, there are lots of little things that we do. I've given you the basics today, but if you can come up with something and you think it's going to set you apart, don't put attachments. Journalists hate attachments. They'll delete it because they'll think it's spam. Don't be cringy. Don't overstep the boundary and be too familiar. There's a lot of idiosyncrasies and a lot of things that I think we've all learned as publicists the hard way. And I'm sure that I've been deleted off back in the early days of some people's mailing lists, or being blacklisted or whatever. But you'll eventually find your feet and find what works. And then once you do that, kind of keep going, keep repeating that. But also the media is forever changing. So don't get too comfortable and think that you've cracked the code, because next week it'll change. So yeah, on top of everything that I've said, you also have to stay abreast of the media and the trends and what's working and what's not. Again, that's what you pay for when you get a publicist, because we're doing so much more than just sending out a few emails.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's so many good things, whether you're ready to actually get a publicist, or you're just going to do this on your own, or, just have those little milestones of, I just want to get in the local stuff, and then, just be out there. Really cool. So much good stuff. And I'll also put some of those links that we talked about. I'll put those in the show notes, for this podcast as well, in there as well, because I know there's a lot of good stuff in there. But before we wrap up, I didn't tell you we were doing this, but we like to do rapid fire fun questions at the end. So they're all travel related.
Okay.
And I'm really excited because of your background in the travel that you've been doing. So we'll see how these go. So are you ready? I think there's seven of them.
Ready.
They're fun. They're easy, but they're hard. If some of them, well, you'll see. Okay, so the first one's really easy.
All right.
First one is, What is your favorite travel movie?
Oh, Captain Ron. Has anyone seen that? It's hilarious. Yeah, he's on a boat, and just once you live on a boat, you're like, oh my God, that's so fake, or that would never happen, or that's just ridiculous. But yeah, people recommended it for years, and then we finally watched it as a family. I'm like, yeah, this is hilarious.
This is great. Did you watch it on the boat? Because that would be epic.
Good question. I think we did watch it on the boat. Yeah, I think we watched it on. Yeah. So he's sailing in the Caribbean with his family, and just hilarious.
That's awesome. Perfect, on point movie watching experience right there. Okay, so this question is, and this is where it could get hard because sometimes people have trouble with this, is what is your favorite destination you've traveled to?
Yeah, look, that's easy. And it's one of those things that I haven't gone back to this place because I don't want to ruin it, because I have made that mistake with other places. Like Venice, for example, was just like so dreamy, and I loved it, and I had like these amazing memories. And then we went back to Venice, and it was just like hot and busy, and we got lost, and it was just like, oh, I should have just not gone back. But this place is Grenada in the Caribbean. It was the first island we arrived at. It was the island we spent the most time on. We got involved in the community. We made local friends. It's just an awesome place, like beautiful. So it looks beautiful, tropical island, lots of greenery, mountains, stunning beaches, white sand, crystal clear aqua water, like all of the stereotypes of the Caribbean are the island of Grenada. But it's got like an edgy kind of feel. The people are super friendly, but also a little bit shy and a bit closed off. But once you get to know them and they kind of like accept you, then they will, invite you to their family's house for barbecues. And yeah, we just got like taken under the wing of a few really cool people in Grenada. Music is so huge in Grenada. So everywhere you go, they play their soccer music. And at the start, I remember thinking, oh my God, what is this? It's so loud, and I've just got a headache, and it's way too loud. Like you ride in a bus, which are like vans, crowded, fully packed with people, grandmas, old men. and they've got the like subwoofer in the back, and it's
Okay.
so loud. It would just never happen in Australia. You're like, we're so just subdue and quiet. But yeah, in Grenada, everyone's got the music going loud and everyone's kind of bopping along. You walk down the main street, the music's just blaring. But by the end of it, we just loved it, loved all of the songs. We went to Carnival in Grenada and, you know, dancing with all the ladies in their feathers and sequins, and it was a super special, awesome place. So
That's
definitely
awesome.
Grenada.
That's really cool. I love that. And what would you say, a little twist on that question is, what do you think is the most underrated destination to visit?
Oh gosh, good question. Underrated. I mean, I'm leaning towards the Caribbean. Certainly in Australia, no one goes to the Caribbean. It's pretty rare. It's very far away. The flight's really expensive to get to. We would go to Asia or Europe more first, way before we'd go to the Caribbean. So yeah, I would say it's underrated for sure. The islands of like St. Bart's, which is really trendy and upper market, and then the island of Saba. It's like a Dutch island, so just super unusual in that it's, you know, you're essentially going to the Netherlands by going to this island, and it's just a massive rock that just juts out of the ocean, and you've got to walk up or drive. We had to walk because we didn't have a car, up this really steep switchback road, and then the town, which is called the Bottom, that's the name of the town, the Bottom, is at the top of the mountain, just sitting perched up on the top of the mountain. So yeah, I mean, you would never even know of those places unless you go over to the Caribbean and travel around, which would be difficult without a boat, but it's definitely something that you should put on your bucket list.
That's really interesting with Australia, because I never really thought about that it would be like, because it's a lot further away, but I would say even for people who are like in North America and South America, I mean, you hear the main ones like, you know, Jamaica and the Bahamas. I mean, all the ones that they're typical, but you don't really hear so much about those ones that you're saying. So it almost is like underrated for everyone. So really good tips there.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question here is, what is the best meal that you've had while traveling?
These are tricky. So the first thing that came to mind are the gyros in Greece, probably because we've been in Greece most recently. So super fresh, enormous, delicious, tasty, healthy. But if I were to live on any one food for the rest of my life, you know, sometimes ask yourself that question, it would have to be Thai food. So we spent a lot of time in Thailand, not on the boat, but just on overland travel. Sticky rice and mango, oh my God, coconut smoothies, drunken noodles, yeah, pad Thai.
Sounds amazing.
And then Vietnam would be banh mi and yeah, cold rolls. Now you're making me hungry.
Oh, I know. And yeah, it's like dinner time here now. Oh my gosh, you know what's really funny too? I need to keep track. I need to keep tabs of what people say, because that is starting to become the most popular answer to that. Like that is, so it's Thai and Vietnam. It's both. I think the last podcast was the same answer, was pretty much like, yeah. So good stuff. There's something to it.
It's amazing. I could live on Asian food the rest of my life. Like, oh, delicious.
Oh my God. I know. Sounds really good. Might have to have that this week sometime. So
You
really
must.
good. So, okay. Other question here, two more left, is, what is the last great book or article that you read?
I read a book recently called Grit, Grit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I saw a lot of myself in there. And I often say that to my kids, you know, I might not be the smartest person out there. I always thought of myself as pretty average in everything, got average results at school, felt like I'm just a regular person. If people would say, you know, you're amazing for doing the boat life, I'm like, I just feel like I'm pretty normal, you know, like if I can do this, I'm sure you can too. But what I do have is grit. And reading that book, it really allowed me to understand more about myself and maybe why I've been, successful. I guess successful is different to different people, but I feel pretty proud of what I've achieved. And I think that's down to my tenacity and determination and grit.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good book. That's been on my list for a while. It's I think there's like an audiobook. I might have listened to a little bit of it, but it's really good. And I do feel like a lot of people in the travel industry, because I mean, everyone's really entrepreneurs, and you do have to have that grit, you have to have it to keep moving forward and all that. So yeah, that's a good recommendation there. I like that. Okay, so last question. This is always my favorite one. What is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while traveling?
Well, there's a few, but I mentioned that Laura Decker, her documentary was what caused us to buy a boat, sail away. So we were living in a house watching Netflix, like it was completely random that we chose that documentary that night. We had never thought to do anything like that before. We were not sailors. So anyway, we did that. Now, we had been living on our boat for a couple of years, and we sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. So imagine doing that as non-sailors only 18 months earlier. 17 days at sea, just me, my husband, one other female crew member, and our 3 kids. And we arrived into the Azores, which are some little islands off the coast of Portugal, kind of in the middle of not in the middle, but 3/4 of the way across the Atlantic Ocean. So that was just, super exciting. We'd made landfall, we'd done it. And who should be there but Laura Decker on her boat was in the Azores, and we got to go and meet her and thank her and just say, you literally changed our entire life. She invited us aboard her boat. We got a tour. Like, it's insane. How does that happen? It's just such a coincidence that we went from watching her on TV one night to living on a boat, sailing across the ocean and meeting her in person. So yeah, that would have to be
That's
the number one thing.
I have full body chills. That is so cool. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that is just insane. Oh, that is really cool. Oh my gosh, I literally want to have a whole nother podcast episode just about your travels, because this is I have to hear everything. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot I can tell you.
I know. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Well, I just have to say thanks again for sharing not only just your really cool background and travel, but really just, I mean, this is really helpful stuff, and a lot of just a cool thing that I don't think a lot of travel advisors, especially maybe ones listening, are like, wow, I never really thought, you think of just these really, really big companies that have like publicists, but no, it's also like you have to get out there for yourself, and you do have an expertise. And so you get to share that with the world. So really awesome. So thank you so much again. And thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Lounge with Travefy Academy, and especially to our special guest, Erin, for joining us today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next flight or sail. We have to say sailing on this time.